I was a kindergarten assistant in an aftercare program. I hated how the parents treated us like disposable babysitters, and my plan was to keep my head down, do checklists, and swallow the violent images that kept flashing in my brain whenever a kid screamed. My role put me in loud rooms with tiny bodies. My motive was survival and control, and the logistics were routine: snack, crafts, pickup line. It's not a cute job. It's fluorescent lights, sticky tables, and noise that drills straight into your skull. Kids crash into you like your furniture. Somebody's always crying, somebody's always lying, somebody's always trying to run. You count heads every 2 minutes. You check allergy lists like they're holy. You wipe hands, wipe noses, wipe crayons off walls, and then a parent walks in and talks to you like your coat rack. They don't ask how your day is. They ask why their kid's hair is messy and why their hoodie smells like marker and why we let their child get upset. Like I control their whole life for 3 hours. The thoughts didn't arrive like ideas. They arrived like scenes already shot. A kid throws a toy, and my brain shows me the same toy smashing teeth. A kid bites my wrist, and my brain shows me biting back until skin tears. I'd stand there holding a glue stick while my head played a movie where I did unforgivable shit and nobody could stop me. It wasn't even always rage. Sometimes it was blank, like my brain was just testing footage. I'd be opening a fruit cup and get a clean image of my hands doing something horrible, and it would hit so fast my stomach would drop like I'd missed a step. Then the room would keep moving, and I'd keep moving with it, because if you freeze, you lose control. I never acted. I kept the smile. I washed hands. I tied shoes. I said gentle hands like a robot. Then I'd go to the supply closet and press my fingernails into my palm until the urge blurred out. The closet was narrow. Mop, paper towels, bins of chewed markers, a stack of little chairs. I'd wedge myself in, lock the door with my shoulder, and squeeze the shelf so hard my wrists ached. I learned to keep my hands busy on purpose. If my hands were full, clipboard, wipes, snack bin, my head had less room to grab the wheel. The place ran on policies and paperwork, incident sheets, sign-out forms, training videos about appropriate touch, and protecting yourself from allegations. Those trainings were supposed to keep kids safe, but they also felt like someone was feeding my worst part instructions. Don't be alone with a child, except you will be, because staffing is always short. Don't restrain, except a runner can hit the parking lot in 3 seconds. Redirect with an open hand. Avoid leaving marks. Like I can negotiate with physics. Parents could smell stress. Some of them came in already loaded for a fight. One dad once snapped that I let his son cry too long and tried to corner me by the cubbies. I told him his son cried because he didn't get first pick of the iPad, and we don't do that. He leaned in like he wanted to intimidate me. I didn't back up. Inside my skull, the movie started, me slamming his car door on his hand again and again until he stopped talking. Out loud, I just repeated policy and handed him the backpack. That's what I mean about control. Control wasn't kindness. Control was me keeping the lid on. The day it popped off was stupid. Door buzzer rang. A parent came early, and a kid saw a gap and bolted. Runner kid. Fussed. Straight for the exit like it was a game. I moved without thinking. I grabbed the back of his hoodie and yanked him back from the threshold. Not violent. Not even anger. Pure reflex. He spun, screamed like I'd stabbed him, and flailed. The fabric tightened for a second, and his sleeve bunched. His skin went pink where it pressed. I saw it immediately, and my stomach dropped, because I knew what pink turns into in a parent's imagination. I wrote it up anyway. Time, behavior, response. Facts. The same boring armor. At pickup, his mom saw the faint red mark, and her face changed like a switch flipped. She didn't ask what happened. She didn't listen. She grabbed his arm and twisted it out toward the room like she was showing off a bruise. What the fuck is this? The kid caught the vibe and started wailing, pointing at me, because he knew her anger meant he wouldn't get in trouble for running. I kept my voice calm and flat. He ran for the door. I stopped him. I documented it. She cut me off and said it loud enough for other parents to turn their heads. So you grabbed him hard. You left a mark. That's abuse. My face stayed neutral, while my brain lit up with 100 ways to prove her wrong by becoming exactly what she imagined. It hit so clean I almost laughed. In my head, I saw myself stepping forward, taking her wrist, twisting until she yelped, making her understand what too hard actually is. I saw myself picking up the nearest toy and doing the thing my brain always shows me. I saw her eyes shift from righteous to scared. My body stayed calm, and that scared me more than anything because calm meant readiness. I didn't move. I locked my hands behind my back like I was a fucking inmate. I repeated the facts. I pointed at the clipboard with the incident sheet. She laughed, sharp, and said I was covering my ass. My coworker tried to jump in with a soft voice, trying to smooth it, and the mom snapped at her too, telling her not to defend me. The room went tight. Kids got quiet in that animal way they do when adults turn ugly. Then the director rushed in and did the corporate face, apologizing without admitting anything, and asked the mom to step into the office. They left me standing there with 20 kids and a line of parents looking at me like I'd done something dirty. My coworker muttered, "Jesus," under her breath, and I snapped that she could have watched the damn door if she wanted to help. She shot me a look like I just proved the mom right. I could feel my temper rising, hot and clean, and I hated it because it felt good to have something sharp to hold on to. I went straight back to the checklist because if I stopped moving, the clips would swallow me. Snack, wash hands, crafts, clean up, line up, count heads, scan the door, repeat. After close, the director called me into the office. Door shut. No yelling, just that HR tone that makes your stomach drop. She said the parent escalated it and might file a report. She asked if I was overwhelmed. She asked if I understood appropriate physical guidance. She asked if there had been any other complaints. I kept my voice steady and walked through it again. Runner, reflex, hoodie, documented. She nodded like she believed me, then slid the incident sheet back and said, "In the future, try to redirect without pulling fabric." Like I can catch a bolt of lightning with manners. On the way out, my coworker started in again, half joking, half gossiping about how the mom was crazy and how I'd probably be fine. I told her to shut up. She acted offended like I'd insulted her family. She said I was being intense. I wanted to scream at her that I was intense because I spend 8 hours a day holding my own brain down with both hands. But I didn't. I walked away before my mouth could do something my face couldn't fix. I went home and scrubbed my hands until my knuckles cracked. I washed like I could rinse off accusations, like I could rinse off the images. The mom's voice kept looping. Abuse, abuse, and it laid over every other clip in my head like a soundtrack. I'd see the kids sleeve bunching. I'd see the phone camera. I'd see a child's mouth open in a scream, and then my brain would cut to the version where the scream stops and everything goes quiet. My stomach turned and my jaw locked, and I kept washing anyway because at least washing is an action and not a thought. I looked at myself in the mirror and practiced the same calm expression I use at work, the one that convinces people I'm safe. Smooth face, soft eyes, small smile. I watched it click into place like a switch. It worked. That made me feel worse, because if I can fool a furious parent and a director in a room full of kids, I can fool anyone. I can keep doing the job while my head plays those movies and nobody will know. Tomorrow I'll unlock the classroom and pass out crayons like normal. That's the horror part nobody wants to admit. A person could be full of violent rot and still follow every rule. Still get thanked. Still be trusted with your kid because the mask doesn't slip. Nothing creepy at first. Just a guy who forgot his card every night and made me type his name. I worked late circulation at the campus library, that dead shift where the building feels too open and every sound carries. I sat behind the desk with the barcode scanner and the patron computer that shows way more than it should. Same time every night, 10 minutes before close, one book in his hand like a prop. He'd pat his pockets, do the fake, "Oh no," and lean on the counter. "Forgot it," he'd say like we were both in on the joke. I'd ask for his name, pull up the record, type it in. He didn't watch the screen. He watched my fingers. He watched what hand I used for the mouse. It felt like being measured. First couple times, I told myself to stop being weird. People forget stuff, but he never forgot anything else. No backpack, no wallet, no keys to fumble with. He came in empty, did the routine, left empty. Always calm, always too close. I started taking a step back on purpose. He'd lean farther. I turned the monitor slightly away. He'd shift his head to keep the angle. He never apologized. He never joked. He never acted human about it. Then he started showing up on my breaks, always coincidentally in the same aisle. I'd step away for 10 minutes, and he'd be there, standing like a shelf label. Not reading, not pulling books, just scanning spines with his eyes. If I cut through reference, he drifted after. If I ducked into periodicals, I heard his shoes on the carpet, slow and careful, like he was keeping distance on purpose, so I couldn't call it chasing. I tried changing routes. He kept matching them. I tested it once, turned down an aisle, doubled back, cut through art, then circled the stairwell. He didn't miss a beat. He was one route over every time, empty hands pretending to browse. I mentioned it to my coworker, and she gave me that tired half smile like I was making her job harder. She said, "Oh, him. He's always here." I said he was following me. She said maybe he liked me. That pissed me off. I told her it wasn't cute, it wasn't flirting, it was fucking with me. She shrugged and went back to scanning returns. That was the first fight about it, and it wasn't even with him. One night he did the card thing again, and I felt this anger flare up. I made my voice flat. I typed his name slower on purpose. I watched his face for any crack. Nothing. He just stared at my hands like he was learning a dance. He left, and 10 minutes later, I found a sticky note tucked under the counter lip, right where only staff hands go. Not on top, under, like someone slid it in while I was turned away helping someone with the copier. My full name was on it, spelled right, middle initial included. I don't put that on my badge. I don't say it out loud at work. I stared at it until my eyes watered. Then I threw it away and scrubbed my hands like paper could stain. I hated myself for not keeping it. I kept thinking about the middle initial because that isn't a lucky guess. That's a detail you get off a screen. And the only screens with my middle initial are the ones behind the desk, the ones he kept forcing me to open. I actually went back to the trash a minute later, ready to fish it out, and it was already buried under fresh paper towels and receipt tape like someone had emptied it fast, or he took it back while my back was turned. That made my throat close. I told my supervisor the next shift. I didn't even ease into it. I said, "There's a patron stalking me." She pulled that careful face and asked if he'd done anything besides being weird. I said he left my full name under the counter. She asked if I kept it. When I said no, her face changed like I'd made it inconvenient. She started talking policy. Document it. Call security if it escalates. Don't accuse someone without proof. I argued. I said it already escalated. I said I wanted security to walk me to my car every night. She said they could if the guard was free. I said, free from what? Shelving books? She told me to calm down. I told her to write it up anyway. After that, I stopped wandering the stacks on breaks. I stayed where cameras could see me. I watched the lobby glass for reflections. I checked the staff hallway doors twice. I kept a list of dates in my phone like I was building a case against a ghost. I caught him on the security monitor once, standing in an aisle, empty hands, turning his head as I walked. He didn't steal. He didn't vandalize. He just occupied space near me like he was mapping the place around me. Closing night was already a mess. Somebody upstairs started yelling. Chair scraped. A study room door slammed hard. Security got pulled to a noise complaint upstairs right as we were locking down. I waited at the desk, pissed because the guard was supposed to walk staff out, and now he was babysitting idiots in quiet study. My supervisor had already left. My coworker was in the back doing returns and wouldn't answer her phone. I texted her anyway, one word now, and watched it sit there delivered with no reply. Then I called, straight to voicemail. After closing, security still wasn't back. I decided to walk to my car alone because I wanted out. I grabbed my bag, locked the drawer, and cut through the stacks. The main aisles were darker because half the lights were on night mode. The carpet swallowed sound. I moved fast, eyes up, trying to keep my breathing normal. Halfway through, I heard a book cart roll. Not rattling, not sloppy. Slow, too controlled. It rolled a few feet, stopped, rolled again. The rhythm felt deliberate, like someone wanted me to hear it. My skin went tight. I stopped and listened. The cart stopped too, like it was listening back. I cut left into children's, lights already half dimmed, because it's a maze of low shelves and displays, and I thought I could break line of sight. My phone buzzed from an unknown number, a photo of my car door handle, taken second ago. Close up, flash glare, the little scratch by the keyhole I made last month. Caption, wrong exit. That was the moment the denial died. He was outside by my car right now, close enough to touch it, close enough to know which way I was heading. And if he was outside, then who the hell was inside with the cart? My brain tried to split him into two people just so it could make sense, and it still didn't help. Either way, I was the only one down here. I sprinted for the staff hallway. I hit the crash bar and shoved. Nothing. I shoved again. Nothing. Then I looked down and saw it. A zip tie cinched tight around the bar, locking it in place. Clean plastic, tight as a cuff. That meant someone prepped it while we were open, while students were walking around, and I was stuck behind the desk doing renewals. That meant someone had been in staff space, and nobody noticed. I swore so loud my voice cracked. I doubled back, grabbed a metal step stool, and smashed the fire alarm pull station glass with it. Glass snapped. I yanked the handle down. Siren shrieked. The building lit up harsh and bright, and that sound made it impossible to think. I didn't want a quiet problem anymore. I wanted a loud one. I ran back toward the main floor because bright and loud meant cameras, meant someone would show up, meant I wasn't trapped in the quiet. My hands clenched the stool like a weapon. I kept expecting a grip on my shoulder. Nothing touched me. The empty space behind me felt like a threat that was choosing to wait. He was right there at the end of the aisle, hands in his pockets, smiling like he'd practiced it. Calm, comfortable, like the alarm was background noise. He looked at me like he was proud of himself. He watched me for a second, then turned and walked away like he was just browsing. Security came running in from the stairwell, breathless, shouting into his radio. I pointed and tried to talk, and the words came out broken and angry. The guard bolted toward the staff hallway while I stood under those lights shaking and trying not to cry because I refused to give him that too. Cops arrived fast because the alarm was going full blast. They flooded the lobby with heavy boots and flashlights and started asking questions like it was my fault. Did I know him? Did I misread him? Why didn't I keep the note? Why didn't I call earlier? I told them to look at the door. I told them to touch the zip tie and feel how tight it was. I told them someone planned that shit while we were open. One officer glanced down the aisles and said, "Real flat, this happens more than you think." And that made me feel sick in a brand new way. And then the guard said he saw the guy outside by the entrance, just standing under the parking lot light, like he was waiting for a ride. No sprinting, no hiding, no panic. Cops caught him outside because he didn't run. He just waited, confident, like he'd done this before and nobody ever pushed the red button. I didn't start as a monster. I started as a petty asshole. I'd tag cars that annoyed me, then watch people sprint outside in socks, begging, sweating. It felt good. I was broke doing a city job that gave me a vest, a handheld ticket writer, and the kind of authority that makes strangers' faces tighten. Most days were just noise, horns, excuses, middle fingers, people filming me like I was a zoo animal. After a few months, I stopped hearing the reasons and started watching reactions. The best ones were the frantic ones, the people who ran, the ones who looked like the ticket didn't just cost money, it cost dignity. I'd stand there while they dug for quarters and I'd wait, just to see how far they'd bend. Then I learned the database. Training called it verification, like it was plate to make and repeat citations. But once you got a login, plates stop being numbers. Plates become a trail. Names, addresses, sometimes phone numbers tied to registrations. I told myself it was for work. Really, I liked how fast a stranger became a file. I'd sit in the truck with a heater blowing on my shins and look people up because I could like peeking through blinds without getting caught. I started keeping a mental list of people I could find again. I got good at pretending it was legit. I'd had a bland note, so it looked like due diligence. My supervisor liked numbers, not ethics. If I wrote enough citations, he didn't ask why I stayed on certain blocks or why my route always ran long. I wasn't some mastermind. I was just a guy who realized there was no immediate consequence for being a creep as long as I kept it quiet and productive. There was one woman who parked wrong once. Not dangerous, not blocking a hydrant, just over a line on a cramped residential street where everyone cheated because the signs were confusing on purpose. She was hauling groceries out of her trunk when I rolled up. She glanced at my vest, rolled her eyes, and kept moving like I was background noise. Something in me snapped stupid and petty. I tagged her anyway, right in front of her like I was proving a point. She didn't yell. She didn't beg. She just paused, read the ticket, and did this slow exhale like she swallowed her anger. Then she looked up, met my eyes for half a second, and turned away like I wasn't worth it. That should have been the end. I should have taken the win and moved on. Instead, I looked her up later. One click, and she turned into a full name and an address. I told myself I was checking residency because the street was permit heavy. That was the first lie. The second lie was telling myself it was harmless because I wasn't touching her. I started watching her schedule like it was my business. I'd swing by her block on the way to another zone, engine idling, pretending to type just to see if she'd glance down the street and stiffen. When her car wasn't there, I'd loop back later. When it was there, I'd slow down like I was scanning plates and feel my stomach settle when I spotted it. It wasn't even about ticketing anymore. It was about checking that my little thread was still tied to her. I started leaving warnings that weren't real, blank slips with my pen scratch, because it made her check her windshield every time. That was my favorite part because it cost her nothing, but it drained her anyway. She'd come out in the morning and do that quick search of the glass before she even got fully upright. She'd touch the wiper like it might bite her. She started doing it even when there was nothing there, like I trained her body to anticipate me. I watched her change. She started parking farther away. She started walking faster, keys already out. She stopped wearing headphones. She'd look over her shoulder when she unlocked her door. One night, I saw her get out, spot my truck a half block down, and freeze on the sidewalk like her brain shorted out. She stood there for a couple seconds, then turned and walked the long way around the block instead of passing me. My chest got warm like I'd won something. A co-worker caught it before anyone else did. He saw me looping the same street and laughed like it was a joke, asked if I had a crush. I told him to shut the fuck up and do his own route. He shrugged, but his eyes stayed on me. After that, I got careful. I stopped logging anything I didn't need. I told myself I was just avoiding drama, not hiding a problem. I even tried to stop for real. 2 days. That's all I lasted. On the third day, my hands turned the wheel onto her block without me deciding to. The worst part is I still told myself I wasn't a real stalker because I didn't message her, didn't break in, didn't put hands on her. I told myself it was just a bad habit. Meanwhile, she was living inside a warning system I'd built. I was the reason she flinched at engines. I was the reason she checked her windshield like it was a pulse. One morning, my handheld scanner updated and froze. It blinked like it always did when they pushed a new version, except it didn't come back to my route list. It flashed a profile page. At first, I thought it grabbed a random record. Then I saw my own name. Me, my car, my apartment, my mom's address, all laid out like prey. I felt my mouth go dry. I scrolled like it would change if I moved fast enough. It didn't. There were notes under it, the same kind of blunt shorthand I used, alone, late shift, easy. My thumb hovered over the screen like it was hot. I looked around the cab like someone was filming me from the dash. Nothing. Just the steering wheel, the smell of stale coffee, and my heart punching. I tried to back out. The device wouldn't let me. It kept snapping back to my own profile like it wanted me to read it again. Then the printer in my truck spat out a ticket from my own plate, slow and steady, the way it always does when it's ruining someone's day. The violation code wasn't any normal thing. It said stalking. I laughed once, this sharp, ugly bark, because my brain needed it to be a prank. Then my phone buzzed. Internal affairs. Coming before lunch. No explanation. No chance to breathe. I drove in like a man walking into a punch. Parked. Walked through the building like my vest still meant something. They put me in a small room with bad air and a table that always has old coffee rings on it. The IA guy didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. He opened a laptop and started clicking. Screenshots, my searches, my lookups, my route pings, neat lists with timestamps. Weeks, months. Every time, I'd open her record with no citation attached. Every extra loop where I wasn't assigned. My denial came out automatic. Hacket login, share device, system error, anything except the truth. The truth was on the screen anyway. The times matched my shifts. The map pings matched my truck. The notes matched my shorthand. The system didn't care about my excuses. It just showed what I'd done and when I'd done it, like a receipt I couldn't return. They walked me down the hall and I saw her sitting outside. She wasn't crying. She wasn't yelling. She looked smaller than I'd made her in my head. Not weak, just human. She held her phone with both hands like it was the only stable thing in the building. She stared through me like I was nothing. And it hit me hard how small I'd made her feel on purpose. I remember the way she froze on the sidewalk when she saw my truck and realized I'd been collecting that feeling like a hobby. They fired me that afternoon. Badge gone. Keys gone. They took my handheld like it was a weapon, which, honestly, it was. I walked out past the lobby where people argued about citations and permits, and nobody looked up. Outside, my hand shook so bad I couldn't get my key into my car for a minute. I went home to drink because it was the only move my brain had left. I bought a bottle, drove too fast, parked crooked, then stood on my own sidewalk and checked my windshield like an idiot, half laughing, half sick. When I got to my door, it was slightly open. Not wide, just enough to see the dark line of the gap. The chain hung loose like someone tested it, pulled until it gave, then let it swing back so I'd still have to touch it. My stomach dropped. I listened. No footsteps. No TV. Just the building pipes and my own breathing. I pushed it open anyway. The apartment looked normal. Nothing dumped. Nothing stolen. That almost made it worse, because theft would have been simple. This felt like the same quiet pressure I'd used on her. Proof someone could be here without leaving a mess. I walked room to room with my fists clenched, checking corners like a coward, trying to act like I was in control. On my kitchen table sat my handheld device, powered on, bright screen in the dim room like an accusation. I'd watched them take it. I hadn't brought it home. My mouth went dry again. I stepped closer and saw one final note under my login, clean and waiting like it had been there the whole time. Now you know what it's like.